Rookies in F1, a never-ending topic of discussion and debate. And while most of the past years haven't been the greatest when it comes to the rookie classes, there were years where it used to be different. Some years in F1 history had a ridiculous set of rookies, but which single year had the best set of rookies? That's the question I try to answer today. And of course this is just my opinion, and admittedly the top few years have been extremely difficult to rank, because they are super close in my opinion. So please take this with a grain of salt. Also, a rookie for me in this video is someone who takes part in the first ever F1 race. So in this video, Schumacher's rookie year is 1991, and Vettel's rookie year is 2007, even though those weren't the first 4 seasons. You may disagree with that, which is totally cool, but I personally think that this makes more sense like that. Also, I'm basing this off of how successful these rookies ended up becoming. I'm not basing this on how good the rookie seasons were. This surely would also be an interesting topic for another video. Maybe another time. For this video, I've collected the, in my opinion, 12 most notable rookie classes in F1 history, and I'm gonna go through them from the least impressive to the, in my opinion, best rookie class in F1 history. So, let's begin. The first season I want to talk about in this video is 1972, which like every year in the very old F1 era had a bunch of rookies. Most of them would never even finish a race, but 1972 was different. This year, a future world champion in Jody Scheckter started his F1 career, alongside 2 other well-known drivers of the 1970s, in Carlos Reutemann and Patrick Depailler, the former of which almost became world champion himself in 1981, and on top of that finished in the top 3 of the Drivers' Championship a whopping 4 times, when he has 12 F1 wins to his name. Patrick Depailler, on the other hand, is a well-known French driver who was a stable part of the top 10 of every F1 season in the second half of the 1970s, and who himself won 2 races and achieved 19 podiums. While this is an impressive set of rookies, it kinda pales in comparison to the following years, and I more or less took this into the video as an honorable mention. The second year in this video that I added as kind of an honorable mention is the 2019 rookie season. This is widely regarded as the best set of rookies in recent years, although I personally don't agree with that, as you will see very soon. And while it is definitely one of the better rookie years, I included this year in this list more as a potential future entry. This year introduced Lando Norris, George Russell and Alex Albon to the F1 grid, and if you compare this to the set of rookies of the years post 2019, this really looks like a great set of rookies. And it is. All 3 of these are very well known drivers with a bunch of potential, but they also at this point in time only have a combined total of 1 F1 win, which is why I can't put them any higher yet. Next up we have what is in my opinion the best set of rookies in recent years, which is 2015, and you can entirely thank Toro Rosso for that, which probably had the best rookie lineup of all time in Max Verstappen and Carlos Sainz. One of them has already cemented himself in history as a top 10 driver of all time. I don't really think you can disagree with that. And the other one is the son of the legendary driver Jos Verstappen. Now, what many forget is that this year also introduced the last Brazilian driver, Felipe Nasr, to the F1 grid. And while his legacy obviously pales in comparison to that of the other 2 rookies, he's generally seen in a positive light today in the F1 community, and goes into history as a possibly big what-if who never got to fulfill his potential because of financial difficulties. And obviously this year is being carried hard by Max Verstappen, but also Carlos Sainz has already cemented his spot in F1 history with 2 wins and the only non-Red Bull win, in what would probably go down in history as the most dominant season in F1 history alongside 1988. For the next year we go back in time quite a bit to the year 1965. This year only had 2 notable rookies, but those 2 ended up becoming world champions. First we have the only world champion from New Zealand, Danny Hulme. He became world champion in 1967 and came 3rd in the championship in 1968 and 1972. He also has 8 wins and 33 podiums to his name. And the second notable rookie this year is none other than Sir Jackie Stewart, who is widely regarded as one of the best F1 drivers in history nowadays. He became world champion in 1969, 1971 and 1973, won 27 races, which was a record at the time, and scored 3 Grand Slams, which is the 5th most in F1 history. Even after his active F1 career, his legacy didn't end, as he became one of the biggest advocates for safety improvements in F1, and is still a hugely respected figure on the F1 grid at his advanced age of 84. For the next entry we go back in time even further to the oldest entry in this list, 1960. And honestly, you can flip-flop 1960 and 1965, because those 2 years have basically the same story. A lot of rookies who are not really worth talking about, and 2 world champions in Jim Clark and John Surtees. Now, why do I rank 1960 ahead of 1965? Because Jim Clark is generally regarded higher than Jackie Stewart, and John Surtees is regarded higher than Denny Hamlin, as he's the only person in racing history to become world champion with cars and with bikes. I don't think I need to say much about Jim Clark, one of the best drivers of all time, possibly even the best driver of all time. He became world champion in 1963 and 1965, and God knows what he could have achieved had he not tragically passed away in 1968 as a result of an accident. He's got 25 wins and a whopping 8 Grand Slams, which is still a record to this day. Now, John Surtees, as I said, is the only driver who became world champion on 2 and 4 wheels, which would be completely unimaginable nowadays. I mean, could you imagine Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton just going to MotoGP and becoming world champion there? Not really. He also became vice champion in 1966 and has 6 wins and 24 podiums to his name. In 7th, I have 1984, a year which is mostly known as the first year for arguably the best F1 driver in history, Ayrton Senna. But he isn't the only notable rookie of this year. This year was also the first season of Austrian legend Gerd Berger and the well-known F1 commentator Martin Brundle, who also had a long and somewhat successful racing career, albeit a tarnished one because he never managed to win a F1 race, despite getting on the podium 9 times. Now, Gerd Berger is one of the most successful Austrian F1 drivers, with 10 wins and 48 podiums. He came third in the championship 2 times in 1988 and 1994 and was Ayrton Senna's teammate at McLaren from 1990 to 1992. And while he obviously never was quite on Senna's level, he did put up a respectable fight, especially in 1992 where he finished the season just 1 point behind Senna. Talking about Senna, he also started in 1984, and yeah, what can you say about Senna? Probably the fastest driver of all time, and who knows what he could have achieved had he not passed away at Imola 94. Many say that this improved his legacy and he wouldn't have achieved much in the following years had he lived, but I heavily disagree with that, but that might be a topic for another video. What we have is the facts, and even if you take just those, Senna is one of the best to ever do it. 41 wins, 80 podiums, 3 titles and 2 run-up spots. Just legendary. I don't think I need to say more. Now, this is where it starts to become really difficult to rank them. In 6th spot we have 1970. While this year didn't have any GOAT rookie, this year had a ridiculous amount of high tier drivers starting their careers. Let's start with François Sever, another great driver whose career was cut short by his untimely death. He got third in a championship in 1971 and has 1 race win to his name. Next we have Clay Regazzoni, who became vice champion in 1974. He won 5 races and went down in history as the most successful Swiss F1 driver. Next we have Ronnie Peterson. Same story as François Sever, although he achieved more in his short career than Sever. He's the most successful Swedish F1 driver and has 2 vice championships and 10 wins to his name. And last but not least you have the big name of this year, Emerson Fittipaldi. 2-time world champion, 2 vice championships, 14 wins, 20 sons, and he's one of the most successful drivers of all time and the first Brazilian F1 champion. Now we get to the top 5 best rookie years in F1 history. In 5th we have 1978. Same story as 1970, just a little bit better in my opinion. We start with Rémi Anu, who got 3rd in a championship in 1983. He has 7 wins to his name and drove an F1 for a whopping 12 seasons, which back then was an incredible number. Next we have Didier Pironi. He became vice champion in 1982 and probably would have become world champion that year had he not suffered a career-ending accident at Hockenheim that year. Another big what if who achieved 3 race wins and 13 podiums. Next we have the de facto world champion of 1982, Keke Rosberg, father of the Monaco-based YouTuber who beat Sir Lewis Hamilton Equal Machinery, named Jeremy Fragrance.
Kraft! Power! Strength!
Keke Rosberg's career is a bit weird looking back. He became world champion in what was probably the weirdest season of F1 history, while only winning 1 race that year. Nevertheless, he is a world champion and cemented his legacy in F1 history as a world champion. He has 5 wins and 17 podiums to his name, and besides becoming world champion, also came in third in 1985. And last but not least, we have Nelson Piquet. Obviously, as a person he won't make this list, but it's undeniable that he is a 3-time world champion and one of the most successful drivers of all time. He also became vice champion in 1980 and came third in 1986 and 1990. He also has 23 wins and 60 podiums to his name. In fourth, we have 1980. This year 3 notable rookies, one of which is Andrea de Cesaris, who despite not having the most successful career in F1 is still a well-known name to the trained F1 fan who had a very long career. He famously never won a Grand Prix, although he achieved 5 podiums and 1 pole position. Now the next 2 are the 2 big fish of this year. First we have Nigel Mansell, one of the best British drivers of all time. He became vice champion a whopping 3 times in 1986, 1987 and 1991, until he won his well-deserved title in 1992. Until Lewis Hamilton burst into the scene, he was the in fact most successful British driver, with 31 wins and 59 podiums. And the third name of this year is the legendary Alain Prost, the most successful French F1 driver and Ayrton Senna's biggest rival. He won 4 world titles in 1985, 1986, 1989 and 1993. Before Michael Schumacher, he was the driver with the most F1 wins with 51, which is still the 5th most in F1 history. He also has 106 podiums and is still widely regarded as one of the best drivers of all time. In addition to his 4 titles, he got second a whopping 4 times in 1983, 1984, 1988 and 1990 and was famously only 12.5 points away from being an 8-time world champion. You could argue that Prost is the best driver of all time, and it would be a valid take, which tells you how good he was. Now we enter the top 3. In third, I have 1991. And while this year only had 2 notable rookies, those drivers would end up becoming some of the most legendary drivers of all time. First we have Mika Hakkinen, 2-time world champion and Michael Schumacher's fiercest rival. And as fate wants, the second rookie is Michael Schumacher. As I mentioned in the intro, it is debatable whether Schumacher was really a rookie that year, because he only drove 6 races in 1991. If you don't count him as a rookie that year, this year wouldn't even make it into the video. But as I said, I count Schumacher as a rookie in 1991. And what can I say about Michael Schumacher? First, he'd be the best driver of all time, 7-time world champion, 91 wins, 155 podiums, until 2022 the longest F1 career of all time. But let's not look past Hakkinen. He became world champion himself in 1998 and 1999 and was Michael Schumacher's fiercest opponent in the 90s. You could argue that at his peak he was on a level with Schumacher, but he never quite had the consistency to match Schumacher over multiple seasons. Nonetheless, a legendary driver and in my opinion the best finished driver of all time. Now we get to the top 2, and in my opinion this was almost impossible to rank. For me the second place is my personal favorite rookie year, but I can't look past what the drivers of my number 1 spot achieved. So in second place I have 2001. And let me just say the names real quick. Juan Pablo Montoya, Kimi Räikkönen and Fernando Alonso. Montoya is widely regarded as one of the biggest what ifs in F1. Supremely talented, he managed to create a bigger legacy in 6 seasons than most other drivers did in 10 or more seasons. He has 7 wins and 30 podiums to his name. He came third 2 times in 2002 and 2003. Next we have Kimi Räikkönen, who is still widely regarded as one of the fastest drivers of all time in his prime. And while I do think Räikkönen is a little bit overrated, he's nonetheless an F1 legend. 1 world championship in 2007, 2 vice championships in 2003 and 2005, and an unreal 350 Grand Prix, cement himself as one of the most decorated drivers in F1 history. And last but not least, we have Fernando Alonso. Now, let me preface this by saying that I'm an Alonso fan, so please take what I say now with a grain of salt. But in my opinion, we are talking about one of the best drivers in F1 history, and in my opinion, arguably the most talented driver of all time. I mean, what can I say about him that hasn't been said before? This man has been an arguably top 3 F1 driver for the past 20 years. Some of his stats quite frankly don't make sense. 378 Grand Prix, which is a record and probably will be a record for quite some time, especially since it doesn't look like he's stopping anytime soon. He's just a freak accident, and I think if he had made one or two different decisions in his career, we could be talking about the greatest F1 driver of all time. There have been so many drivers in F1, so many great drivers, so many world champions, but I think there will never be another driver like Alonso again, which is why we should cherish him as long as he still is on the grid. But let's start with the fangirling here and let's go to what is, in my opinion, the best rookie year of all time. Now in first spot we have 2007, and the rookies this year were just ridiculous. Let's start with Heikki Kovalainen, who had a quite impressive rookie season and went on to become an F1 race winner. But the main two people this year are Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton, the two most successful drivers of the post-Schumacher era. And while I don't rank this in this list, this year also had the best rookie performance of all time in Lewis Hamilton, who was 1 point away from becoming a world champion in his first ever season. And what can I say about these two? First, you have Sebastian Vettel, one of the best primes of all time with 4 championships in a row. He also became vice champion 3 times in 2009, 2017 and 2018. At his peak, Vettel was one of the best of all time, but sadly he didn't quite have the consistency over his career to be part of the GOAT debate in my opinion. Nonetheless, it's hard to deny that he is a top 10 driver of all time. And yeah, Lewis Hamilton is the most successful driver of all time. The GOAT of F1 as you will. And while I disagree with the statement, Lewis Hamilton is easily one of the best drivers in F1 history. You don't win 7 world titles without being a great of the sport. And on top of his 7 titles, he also became vice champion 3 times in 2007, 2016 and 2021. So it's hard to argue against Hamilton being an at least top 5 driver of all time. Other interesting rookies that year were Adrian Sutil and the actual GOAT of F1, Markus Winkelhock. But obviously the two names which make this, in my opinion, the best rookie year in history are Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel. So that's about it for this video. If you made it this far into the video, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know, what do you think is the best rookie of all time, and if you enjoyed this, please drop a like and subscribe. Thanks a lot and see you next time.